All right, hopefully you all heard the recording voice. So it is my great privilege to welcome members of the Community of Hope groups that have been operating in our diocese over this past year. So in fall of 2019, I was privileged to help write a grant proposal to get some funding for our diocese to develop some Community of Hope groups. And we were able to get that funding. And even though the pandemic hit and things turned out way differently than we anticipated, we were still able to start 4 of these groups in our diocese in 2020 and 2021. And we're hoping to start some more. So I am so excited to have Kelly Clift here and the whole team from mostly the Northwest Community of Hope group. And then we have a few folks from the Southwest Regional Community of Hope as well. So I will allow you all to take it away and tell us more about Community of Hope.
Thank you. So our Northwest region has congregations from Roslyn, Wenatchee, and Ephrata. And then the Southwest is representing All Saints. So what our goal is tonight is to let you know what Community of Hope International is and what the program stands for, and some of the training you could expect if you were to join into a Community of Hope organization, and how we are living out what we're learning within our own communities. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Kate.
Thank you for allowing us to be with you this evening. As we were preparing for this, we're all pretty excited about Community of Hope and our involvement in the program. I'm Kate, and I go to church at Church of the Resurrection in Roslyn. I live a little bit north of that, outside of a little town called Ronald. And part of the uniqueness of this program with Community of Hope, as Kelly said, was we were bringing so many different geographical areas together, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more a little bit later. For now, I wanted you to be aware of the living vision and mission statements that the Community of Hope has and lives out in my opinion. The vision statement is to be a listening presence. And I put a little emphasis on the listening because the mission statement goes on to say, creating communities steeped in Benedictine spirituality to serve others through compassionate listening. So the core of this, and sort of in my opinion, the glue that holds this together, is truly listening with the ear of the heart, which is a Benedictine phrase that comes up over and over again. So what is this Community of Hope? How do I do this, and how does it happen? Well, I had no idea, and I learned rather quickly because if you choose to be part of this great group, you get a wonderful notebook. And going through that notebook, there are 14 different training modules that we study together. Tonight, we're not going to bore you with all 14 modules. I keep on referring to this living experience. We have some living experiences that folks are going to share with you that speak to those modules and how they've come out into our lives and to the lives of those that we spend time with. With that, Burr, you're on.
You're muted.
Burr, you're muted. There you go.
So as Kate was saying, that the
the modules are a very important part of the curriculum and the basis, and we study those modules. But the background, the spiritual underpinning, the philosophy behind it is Joan Chittister's book, A Spirituality for the 21st Century. And it's the Rule of Benedict, which is a 14th century monastic text. So that's a pretty ambitious task you could imagine, is to take a 14th century text and make it something into what in the 20 that would speak to us in the 21st century. But she's done a marvelous job of it. And the text itself, just to give you a kind of a sampling of the type of topics that are contained, and I'm going to show you some of the ones that would be a little bit hard to wrap into our 21st century, but there's 73 of them, and you kind of the idea is that every day you go through one of the topics, one of the entries, and then you read that, and it's a meditation thing. But just to give you an example, topic number 15 is the times for saying Alleluia. And then another topic, number 40, is the proper amount to drink. And 55 is, and now remember, we're talking about living in a monastery in the 14th century, is clothing and footwear. And my favorite personal one is number 70, is the presumption of striking another monastic at will. And so, and you think, wow, that's pretty hard, and how is she going to relate it? But she has been committed, and that has been her life. It's been she's a prioress, and she takes this and takes the gems from this as an overall philosophy based on the gospel, and brings it forward in the 20th century. And so I just gave you a little bit of that to kind of gets you interested. It's quirky and it's kind of magical how she weaves it into our life today, and she relies on not only the gospel, but she has all sorts of wisdom. She calls it wisdom literature from Buddhism and other spirit Islam, and wraps that into it. So it's basically kind of a wisdom literature on top, and it's a part of the community that have, from the Dark Ages on, have existed, Benedictine communities, and have been a powerful force for good. And it's remarkable, and they're growing in today around the world. We have a member that is a member of a community, and she does most of it on Zoom. But the magic is that I think it's just emphasizes being with God, finding God in everybody, and finding and believing that everybody is worthy of kindness and justice. And the fact of worship in community is the most thing, and community is in itself is something that, of course, is the feature. So it's God is in community, God is in us. And the difference between Benedict and other spiritualities of the time was that spiritual life was not the matter of kind of rigid spiritual gymnastics. It was nothing harsh or burdensome. And in our community group, our community care group, we really do keep it light. There's a lot of smiles. There's a lot of welcoming attitude. And again, the spirituality is not to be done in private, it's to be done in a group. And the idea is that you're waking up to God in others, and waking up to God in yourself. And so the question is not, is there life after death? The question is there life before death in the now? So it's very now focused. And the idea is kind of, you may look for God on a mountaintop, or you might look for them in church, but it's most important to look for God in the person that's right in front of you. And it's much easier, for example, to give past the peace in church than it is to speak peacefully in your own family. Another big part of it, of our group in our meetings and your daily life, is centering prayer. And centering prayer and silence are ideally practiced throughout the day. And the idea is that agitation drives out your consciousness of God. And several members of our group have benefited greatly from prayer circles and from prayer beads. And so doing good deeds in the now without self-consciousness is of the utmost importance. And reminding me of a saying that somebody said that about good deeds, doing good deeds will never get you to heaven, or will not guarantee you grace. And that's kind of rule number one. And number two was go ahead and do the good deeds anyway and forget rule number one. So Benedictine is foundational to the community of hope because of the emphasis of finding God in others in the moment through responsive listening, as Kate said, and Ella will continue to elaborate on. And listening with the ear of the heart is the key. And the heart of pastoral care is responsive listening, which Ella is going to go into. So thank you.
Thank you, Burr. Listening is a very important part of the Benedictine and community hope. No matter how well you listen, you can always learn to listen more and listen and in tune for what the person may not be saying verbally, but what they may be saying in their emotions, in their face, and also listening for God, because Jesus goes in. Jesus is in there already when we go to speak to someone. I'm going to give a very quick example of recently I was with a friend and she was dying, and she asked me, what would I say to someone that is dying? And I thought about it and I said, I don't know, because what I do is I listen for what the person may not be saying, but what they may be expressing. And so I listen for that, and I listen for God, what he wants me to say, what he wants me to do. And in the midst of that occurrence, that situation, I began to be able to serve her in love, serve her in helping her change clothes, serve her in listening to her in her confession, serve her in presence and just being there. So I listening is a very important part, because we're not there to fix someone. I could not fix my friend. She was dying. All I could be was a listening presence to her, one of love, one of compassion, one of knowing that I care about her. And so because we're not there to fix, we don't have to do a lot of talking sometimes. Sometimes it's just sitting, and sometimes it's sitting and not saying anything, and it's quiet. Because when it's quiet, it gives you a chance to hear the voice of God speaking to you and speaking through you to that person. We also have to remember that there's boundaries. There's boundaries that we have to be careful of. Their story is important to us, but we cannot live their story. They live their own story. So the boundaries of listening to them, caring for them, hearing their story, but not bringing their story to us, where when we go, it becomes a part of our life that we can't keep going. So the listening part is very important. The boundaries is very important. And then confidentiality. What is said is between you, them, and the holy. That's very important, because if you go and you speak what they've spoken to you, then they can't trust you with themselves and with their story and with their knowledge of who they are. So it's very important to do those things in the listening part of the Benedictine. And now I'm going to invite James.
That's me. Okay. Just as Miss Kate and then Mr. Burr and Miss Ella said, after you've done all those, visiting somebody and sitting with them and listening to them, what do you do with it? Well, part of also the Community of Hope training is help you understand how to care for yourself. You also practice the skills that you need to take care of yourself. We meet once a month for a debriefing, for us to talk about times we were connecting with somebody, so we can talk about how we felt about it, what was going through us to regenerate our own strength, and where God was in our conversation, and where God is in us as Community of Hope folks. So mostly I would say that's to foster a community where we feel safe. I know when we meet each month, it is a safe place to talk about if we talk with anybody, but it's also a safe place for us to talk where God is in our life at that time. So I'm going to pass it on to Miss Kelly.
So, as you can see, there's a lot of richness to the curriculum, and we learned so much from each other. It's pretty amazing. And what's kind of interesting is, as we are learning these skills together and as we are supporting each other in these ministries, and as we're steeped in prayer, we ourselves are becoming changed. And it's funny how that change ends up sneaking into our everyday lives. We end up taking this change in our own heart into us in our personal relationships, in our professional relationships. And it's just pretty amazing how it spreads. One thing I want you to understand is, in the Northwest region, Clallam and Ephrata, we're not close to any hospitals. And a lot of the curriculum, traditionally, you would think that it would be used in a hospital setting, or maybe a rehabilitation center or something along those lines. And we at first began to struggle. Well, how are we going to do this? And the COVID restrictions came and nobody was allowed to go pretty much anywhere. And it's like, well, how do we live this out? And what's interesting is, we have found that the Spirit just kind of sends people our way. And it's really interesting how the Spirit is working through us to be a listening presence for these other people, but how those other people are changing our own experiences. And so that's a little bit of what we're going to share with you next. So, Kate, would you like to continue on the conversation?
Sure. Thanks, Kelly. We continue to talk about these geographic disparities here that we have. And one of my first questions was how is Zoom going to work with this? And we were thankful that the diocese and the folks that nationally work with Community of Hope were willing to do this way and to give it a trial. Because in fact, I don't think any of us really knew exactly how it was going to work. So one of the things that I did when I was thinking about, well, why did this work? Well, I went back and looked at that vision and mission, which I've already shared with you. And then I looked at, well, what was the purpose? What is the purpose of COH training? And it's to prepare the learner for servant ministry of bearing the gift of God's presence. So there's nothing there that says we can't learn how to do that better over Zoom. We have had the opportunity to get together one time with the community of Hope Circle of Care, which James talked about, and that is such a feeding experience. I think I'm not. I'll speak just for myself. I think I was a little bit timid with wondering, how am I going to do this? It seemed like such a tough thing, and I'm a nurse. My background is nursing, so it's not like I'm not used to caring for people. It just, between the Benedictine rules and all the training, it was a little intimidating to begin with. And yet I can say that I think everybody, with the power of the Spirit, will find way more satisfaction than probably we even give through the program and through the time spent with our clients or patients or whatever that might be. So with that, I'm going to check and see if I've forgotten to say something. I guess the only other thing I have to say is that Zoom, in a way, for that reason, has become a gift for us, because we would no way have been able to come together the way we did without having that technical benefit. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Julie to talk about to share her experiences. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Kate. I'm the one from All Saints in Richland, and I'm a kid who on all my report cards talks too much in class. And I've been called on that more than once in my lifetime, including my adult lifetime, where it was more important to talk than to listen. Boy, did I benefit from Community of Hope to hone my listening skills. I wish I'd had this understanding of that years ago. It has helped me everywhere, but I'll say in particular, it's helped me with my family. And especially as a mother, to not, when one of my sons and my sister suffer from severe depression. It is being treated, but they still have their ups and downs. And the skills that I've learned in Community of Hope have helped me to keep from trying to fix it. I find myself that if I think, oh, I can tell them to do this and that and the other, that the Holy Spirit says, remember what you've learned. And it actually has led to a deeper relationship with people. And here I thought they were just going to benefit from my sparkling personality. But it's when I keep my mouth shut that I can do the most of what God wants. And that's kind of sums it up for me. But it's really good in ministering to other people too. Trust me. So with that, I will, Kelly, speak to us.
Well, it's really helped me personally. I've had some illnesses happen in my family that I think back, I probably would not have handled some of the challenges nearly as well as I had I not had the support of my people and learned some skills along the way. So I can't stress enough how the Community of Hope gives you tools for your own personal life. But in addition to that, I teach school. And what I found coming out of my mouth about a month ago was a Benedictine phrase, and we begin again tomorrow. We had there was a little girl who was making all sorts of really poor choices that day. And, I've taught for many years, and I've had conversations with kids about making better choices, but I've never used that phrase. And we begin a new tomorrow. And it made all the difference in the world with this child. And the next day, she came into the door and she says, "We're starting over today." And I said, "Yes, we are." And so it's amazing how some of these little nuggets just spread. And one thing I wanted to just kind of let you know is, I don't know if you know the geography, but Roslyn is about an hour away from Wenatchee and another hour and a half away from Ephrata. And James and Ella, they live in Odessa. James serves Ephrata, and Ella serves a Methodist church in Ritzville. So our little cohort has spread a lot just in the region. But then we have a person who's part of our group that she actually lives part of the year in Tennessee. And there's no way she would have been able to participate with us had it not been for Zoom. But she's taking these nuggets all the way to Tennessee. And then we have our folks from Richland, and it was so wonderful to hear them tell us a lot of the same things we're experiencing in a different context. So anyhow, I just wanted to share my experience with you. James, how about you?
Well, you took my saying I was going to say about start a new day. I work in mental behavioral health, and you know the Community of Hope. The training was tremendous, and the little nuggets like that. When I have a patient that's difficult or having a difficult time, I've said that to them. So we just start a new day, and it does make a difference. It does. It's amazing how such a simple phrase could say it. So I'm going to invite Miss Karen and Mr. Burr. Jump up on in here.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I belong to the Episcopal Church in Roslyn. I live about 30 minutes south northeast of Roslyn. Community of Hope just gave me a lot of insights. One of the things was that I think the movies was when you go into a place, just remember that God is with you. And I thought, oh, I hadn't thought about that because I'm too nervous. What am I going to say it the first time? So that just has really built my self-esteem a lot. Thinking about that, I do a lot of cards and telephone calls and some visits. Reaching out with the cards or with people who have illnesses, and the cards I send aren't, they're funny cards so that they, have a time to laugh instead of thinking of what's going on. I felt like I had a touch on my shoulder a couple of weeks ago. There was a person I wanted to call, and I was putting it off, and all of a sudden I felt this urge, and I'm sure it was God tapping me on the shoulder to give him a call. One of the things was I knew that he was suffering from an illness, but I didn't know if other people knew or if he wanted to talk about it. And when I did call, he was very open and got to talk about how he was doing and how I think he's in the first stages of Alzheimer's. And so this is a quite hard to deal with, needless to say, but he was seemed willing to just talk about that and other things that were going on. The listening part was the key there, putting the fix it part away. I don't know, but I have a great fix it part of me. So that was a real blessing. And Who's next to me? Oh, her.
Just again, saying how it changes your relationships with your friends, your neighbors, because whatever you were to them before, and now you start looking at yourself through the eyes of Benedictine and seeing how am I measuring up on the Benedictine yardstick, and am I really listening with the ear of my heart? And I mean, that's a challenge, because instead of being an aunt or a, a poker partner or whatever, you're assuming a new role. So you have to kind of always be on a kind of catch yourself and get back into the Benedictine mode and realize the joys of it. Eileen and I have a friend, a couple, where he's at the Peak Growth Center in Seattle, and he'll be there for the next 60 days with a really serious multiple myeloma bone cancer, and they're very isolated. But every day we have a chance to interact with them and try to be as Benedictine as possible and give them a chance to express themselves. And it's a wonderful thing. The Benedictine part is really reinforcing and helping you to kind of be to them what you want to be. So, and then we're going to get back to Miss Ella, and she's going to talk about, as you said, she's a minister in Ritzville, a Methodist minister, and how this all works into what she does in her ministry.
Thank you, Burr. As clergy, I have the responsibility of going to visit people and listening, and it has increased my listening skills personally to listen truly for God in the midst of the community that I serve. But it's also been a blessing because sometimes as clergy, we want to do it all, but allowing the members to visit others, allowing the members to maybe send cards, allowing the members to truly be a partner in the community and a companion to others as they need. So I see it as nothing but a blessing for me, myself, going through the program, in my listening skills, in my hearing God's word, in my relationship with others, but also allowing the members of the congregation to do more in their community of faith, in their faith life, and how they begin to listen to God more as well. So I have truly enjoyed it in my own life, and also with me letting go of some things and letting the members be who God has called them to be. And now I would like to invite Todd to give his experience.
Thanks, Ella. My name is Todd Sluss. I am from All Saints in Richland, Washington. I took the Community of Hope training and brought it on into the ministry I've already had with dealing with people in recovery and addiction centers for alcohol and narcotics, and for those that are incarcerated as a result of their addiction. What Community of Hope taught me was the listening skills that I needed to have to let them tell their story. I can't tell their story for them. They need to tell it to me. They need someone that is sitting there listening with the ear of the heart, not listening with the ear of judgment, not listening with the ear of, wow, you really messed up. Not listening with any of those ears, but listening to their story. Everybody has a story, and everybody wants their story heard. It's a basic concept of life. We all want to share what God has given us. And one of the big things in reaching out with them that I've learned in the short time I've been working in that ministry within the guidelines of Community of Hope is that these people have no sense of community. They've had no sense of community, or the sense of community they had is what got them where they are. They need a new sense. They need a new community. They need a new hope. How can it not fit in with what we do? We provide community. We provide hope. Big hard lesson for me was, I can't fix this. I really can't fix this. Wish I could, but I can't. There's a role play you do during the training, and I don't remember exactly where it fits in within the modules, but it's surrounded about the what if. Instead of saying, and because I can see her face, Ella, you need to go do blah, blah, blah to fix your problem. The training is around, so Ella, what would it look like if you, and that is such, it seems like such a small thing, but it's such a huge thing when you're dealing with people that have no other hope. Give them the ability to come up with their own ideas, and miracles happen and the world changes. I was meeting with someone recently, just yesterday morning, and she said, someone told me I need to find God. I said, when was the last time you saw God on the side of a milk carton saying God was lost? Don't go finding God, just open your eyes and see God. God's been there all along. And she just looked at me and said, wow. And that was the end of the conversation. That was all we discussed about it, but it was just that moment that makes it so great. I see by our agenda that the next portion of this is also being thrown my way first. So I'm not going to throw it back to somebody for somebody to throw it back to me, but it's about hope for the program. And one of the things that I really believe in is that we need to expand the community of hope. We need to expand the community of hope generationally. There are, as we know, in this world that is going through things we never thought imaginable, that there are people from all age groups, all demographics, all walks of life that need to be heard, that need to have a listening ear of someone's heart. They want someone in their own age group, demographic, with their own experiences to be with. I'm 60 years old. I can comfort 60-year-olds really well. 20-year-old mother of two, single, working a job, trying to figure out where God is in her life. I can try, but I don't have any real life experience in that with you. So we need this. I don't know what that means going forward. I don't know how we work within the community of hope and bring people into this fold that I have so been richly blessed by being a part of. It's 16 weeks. It's 3 hours a week for 16 weeks. If you can find a mother of four that can give up 3 hours a week, send her over here, because I've got nieces and great nieces and neighbors that would like to know how she does that. But there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to move forward. Look at the people on this video. Look at how this has impacted our lives. Our message from God is clear: to share the word. We need to find a way to share with those that need it the most. I imagine a world where people in their 20s and 30s have peers in their 20s and 30s that are members of Community of Hope, and we go away from being with just those that are facing death or bereavement or grief into a community of hope that is just that, hope. We all need some hope in our lives. I need some hope in my life. I'm not dying or sick or anything. I just need hope sometimes that we're going to make it through another day. But we all need it, and we all need someone that knows our experiences. So that is my part on the expansion of the program. And because they keep appearing up on here, I'm going to send it back to the studio, like the weatherman always says, and head it back to Ellen James.
We'd like to thank you all for listening, paying attention, and hopefully with something we've said, encouraging you to want to be a part of a community of hope. We are now actually open for any questions and answers that you may want to actually give to anyone that spoke today.